talk about the VOD and the silver screen. Kevin and Tom and Joe know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 794, IF. In vitro. No. No. In fertilization.
There it is.
No vitro.
No vitro.
Or as I'd like to
That
call
sounds painful.
It does. Yeah, vitro.
I'd like to call this one Why.
Yeah.
Oh, I enjoyed this.
Yeah, I had a feeling you would.
Yeah.
This movie is garbage.
Oh, I would not go that far.
I'd go close to that far.
It's a mess, and I
It's
can't wait to
so-
get into it.
Yeah.
All right.
I will say, well acted, well directed,
Sure.
good looking.
Yeah.
The script is word salad.
It is
Cute,
It is
cute
sparse.
premise, totally half baked.
Yeah.
Like cute
Yeah,
idea for a movie.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's go around the table and everyone can introduce themselves.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
And this is Tom. Before we dig in, because we can't wait,
Yeah, right.
shameless plugs. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeart, wherever you find a podcast, you can find us. While you're there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave us a review. Super helpful. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. It's called the League of Show Sharers because we are hoping you will share an episode. People who were kind enough to share an episode last week include Julianne, Jordan, Librarian, Cynthia, Heather Sachs, Chris Falls, Jason McLean, Tammy Lynn Powers, Betts, Lane Levanway, Travis T. Witt, Ralph Tribble, Tom Dowdy, Richard Krotzer, Gabriel Lugo, Chris Magic Man, Taylor Ward, Brent Smith, Joe Batisi.
Hey.
Hey, finally.
Edit Photo Gamer, Binge Movies, Mike and Oscar, David Rojas, Bev Vincent, The Real Pete, Ryan Terry, Ronnie Castle, Colby Mack, In Session Film, Nostalgia Cast, and Geek to Me Radio. So thank you very much. We greatly appreciate that. And don't forget we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Real Spoilers, where for $5 a month, you get all sorts of bonus content. You get extra at Matt Basler.
Yeah, all kinds of Matt Basler on that show.
We like you a little extra. And then finally, don't forget you can watch these over on the YouTube if you're so inclined at youtube.com/@Real Spoilers.
The road to 500.
We're getting
So
there.
close.
31 away at the time of this recording.
Let's go.
We've been hovering around this 450 for like it just for months now. If we could just get 31 people at this point to subscribe, don't even watch it. Who cares? Subscribe to it. Get that number to
Yeah.
500 and we go to the next level. So
Thank you. That'd
Yes.
be great.
yeah.
So anyway, if
So,
Good luck, Joe.
no, it's this is going to be easy. I can do this. No problem at all.
No,
Yeah,
good
this-
luck convincing us that this
Oh,
movie was
I'm
good.
not-
So
I've given up trying to convince you on anything.
I figured you were going to like this because because it's from a girl dad for girl to dad.
Yes, that's very true.
And you saw it with
my daughter.
one of your girls,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I was like, I think it's going to suck you in hook, line, and sinker.
I was in.
But for people watching it of a rational mind, this movie is a mess.
This movie has all the puzzle pieces to be a great movie, right? So
This movie is like someone went through the recycle bin folder of a Pixar computer circa 2003.
But what I mean though is that John Krasinski is a good director. Those Quiet Place movies 1 and 2 are solid movies.
I'm starting to wonder about Krasinski.
In what
Really,
way?
you're wondering if it's like accidentally.
Well, I'm just saying A Quiet Place, right? And someone comes out after that is written and says, "But I had a movie just like that."
That is, yep.
And then his good news show that he did on YouTube during the pandemic that then he sold off to whoever for $1 billion. And then someone comes along and says, "But I was doing that on YouTube." And now
And then this movie is
one has
a cartoon show
If, which is
on...
basically Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
Thank you.
So like I'm just starting to wonder, like he's 3 for 3 of properties with other people saying, but that's my
mine.
property.
The Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends is like eerily similar.
Yeah. Yes, you're absolutely right.
If you're not familiar with this show, it is about a home for imaginary friends to live in that their people do not believe in them anymore. The main imaginary friend is called Blue. Like,
is he really? Is that really his name?
It's weird that you could. I mean, I get people can make stuff up about imaginary friends, but why?
Well,
on Earth?
we've talked before about,
and that's not an obscure show.
No,
right.
Like that
6
was
seasons in a movie.
Yeah, and which is more than Community can say at this point.
Right.
But yeah, like I mean, that ran for a long time. It was very popular. Like yeah.
Why would you make the main character called Blue? And then there's a character in that show not named Blue, but it's a big purple monster that's like actually very timid and not, like it's weird how close it is.
well,
And
we've talked before about how sometimes creative things just happen at the same time, right?
Okay, but this isn't the
that's what I'm
same
saying.
time.
Though. This is
Right.
not the same time.
This is not
Foster's
dual.
is like
There's a-
15
Yeah.
years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah,
So
because my oldest used to watch it.
Okay.
and he's
Okay.
24 now.
Okay.
so you have to wonder. I mean, we're not making any accusations here, but it's eerily similar. And you wonder, did the guy watch this at some point with his kids or something, and then think, I got a great idea to make a
Yeah.
I mean,
You know, things can seep in there, and you think it's your idea, but
But you would think at some point someone at the
Someone
studio
would- I
would go,
Hey,
you
wait a
know,
minute."
this is already a thing, right?
yeah, it's weird. But I think this movie is not good for reasons other than just that. But I agree that is a very odd.
I
thing.
think
That's
so.
He's like, here's my next show, Weirdly Odd Parents.
I also think that for me, this is very reminiscent of like those 80s, not child movie, like kids movies, but like that preteen kind of like, so Mac and Me or
Drop Dead
Fred or Little Monsters, which are all previews that they showed at the beginning of this movie. I was like, oh, that's not okay. But like,
Well, there's your video recovery. You just go through the pre-show
you
at
should,
Alamo.
yeah,
and
right.
it's one-
But Drop Dead Fred, I hate that movie. Like, cannot stand
I don't
it.
know that I've ever seen it.
It's, I mean, Phoebe Cates, it's a big old win there, but no.
Isn't that the one that June Diane Raphael thinks Fred
There's
is
two.
had
There's-
a huge crush on Fred?
Well, there's that, and then there's like, is Fred or Team like not Fred? If he's real, if he's not real. If Phoebe Cates is insane, that entire.
I just
movie.
remember that episode of How Did You Get Made?
Yeah.
Which I don't mind. Let's talk about other podcasts for an hour. But that episode, she was like, had a huge crush on him and talking about how hot he is or whatever. And the guys, like, I think it's Sheer, obviously, and maybe Manzukis is on that episode. And they're just like, what? It's so funny to listen to them.
That's one of their better episodes.
Yeah,
is
it's
the Drop
really
Dead Fred
good.
episode.
I think that's a live one. It was fun.
But there was this, which and it goes back to filmmaking, honestly. There was this whole period in the late 80s, early 90s where people just could get anything made. And it was going to get released in theaters for however, Freaked is a prime example with Alex Winter. Like,
But you
movies-
know what? Here's the difference, though. One, I think some of those movies, not all of them you mentioned, but some of those were really fun and had this fantastical, whimsical, nature about them to where you're having fun along with the characters. Where this movie, for a movie about imagination and imaginary friends, sure lacks any imagination and imaginary friends. There's like 2 sequences where they even attempt to have fun in this movie, and
This is very
bizarre.
It's a very maudlin.
It
film.
is. I did think the same thing, and it's interesting that you have Ryan Reynolds, who has
playing not
built,
Ryan Reynolds.
Well,
right?
yeah, very. He has moments where he's Ryan Reynolds.
Almost the end.
Almost
when
the
he
end.
dances up those stairs at the scene before the last scene in the movie, I'm like, well, that would have been fun. Ryan
Like-
Reynolds going on a fun.
Agreed. The last 5 minutes of this movie, I was like, "Oh, this is good."
Yeah.
And then
why
Krasinski's-
Why wasn't this your movie?
Krasinski's like, I'll play Ryan Reynolds.
But he doesn't.
Like, when he's being goofy and stuff.
Oh,
like,
you mean the manic pixie dream dad?
Yeah. Okay, that could have been cut out of the entire movie and made zero difference. I'm
So
a little
here-
girl, my mom died. Like, the dad thing.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing about the dad thing that I dialed into is what I like is they do the Up thing where
Yeah, God, speak about Krasinski. When I watched it,
It is Up.
before
Same
it
thing.
ended, I go, that's the beginning of Up.
Yeah.
He's just taking the...
Right.
it is Up where we don't know, like it's very.
Which is why I'm starting to wonder about Mr. Krasinski.
That's fair.
I'm glad you said that, because in the theater, I think I even turned to Ryan. I'm like, well, this is Up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the beginning of the movie is that we see this family and they're very happy, and then we see the mom. We don't see her getting sick, but we see her in the hospital. She's wearing
see, the
like
rag,
the they keep
scarf
her
or
head
whatever,
warm,
yeah.
and when she passes away.
No dialogue, like Up. I mean,
Yeah.
you're just shown the story.
Just giving you the
right.
head,
Which is
just
fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
But then they get into the hospital, and I just think the way the writing, to Tom's point,
They get in the hospital.
they
with,
jump all around.
with
But you're like, what is?
I'm talking about with the dad and the daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're just like, what is happening? Her dad just died. Like, why is he there? Like, it's just like they give you so little to where you're sitting there like,
Well,
what
I
is
think
this movie about?
This is also when we talk about the way that Krasinski plays this dad. He is playing this. I think he's playing the dad this way because he knows his daughter has already lost her mother, and we don't really know.
I get why he's doing it.
Yeah.
It's just a lot.
yeah.
I guess I didn't feel like it was a lot because I feel to me he's overcompensating.
Yeah.
Like the dad is overcompensating because he doesn't want to freak Elizabeth out.
Well, I think the main read too is that his little girl has gone through this traumatic loss, and she has lost her childlike wonder and her imagination.
Very much so.
And he is trying to remind her, like, you're a kid, you don't have to worry, don't stay in the hospital, like he says. Like, I like that part about it, but I do feel like this is a very manipulative movie, and that ending has to be one of the most manipulative endings I've ever
do you
seen in
mean?
a movie. Well, maybe we'll talk about
No,
what
you
we
get
get
it
there.
out.
Well, no, let's let's try to stay linear.
Okay, all right.
But this movie, and this is something that carries throughout. So the puzzle pieces I spoke about earlier. So you've got John Krasinski, who in my mind is a good director because I like those Quiet Place movies, and obviously he's done other things that are good. You have Janusz Kaminski, who is Steven Spielberg's cinematographer with this
that
movie.
shows.
Yeah, it's a good looking movie.
It's a great looking movie.
You have Michael Giacchino doing the
Yep.
score, who
Yep.
is up there as like the modern day John Williams, and but his score manipulates you into thinking this movie is making you feel things when it is such a dry, dull movie, but they keep ramping the score up to play with your emotions. It's so orchestrated, pun intended, but it's so manipulative in the points, because I'm watching this dull movie and they're like doing the theme or whatever,
Yeah.
and I'm like, no, I'm feeling none of this without your theme. Like, the score is good, but it's
the script. The script
Yeah,
just lets
it's bad.
this movie
It
down.
reminds me a lot of Tomorrowland. Like I did get those feelings where they wanted Tomorrowland to be this big adventure and imagination, and I did. For me, again, I got that from this, but I can understand I'm bringing a different view to
Right.
that
Sure.
as well,
And
right?
it makes total sense to why these things you'd latch onto, because you're connecting with them in a way that
Right.
we're not. But the Tomorrowland's a good example, though, because this to me feels like John Krasinski's trying to be Brad Bird. He's trying to create an Incredibles, something that deals with issues that adults can relate to, right? Because the parents in Incredibles, right, they're doing I'm going to work every day and I'm a mom and dealing with all this stuff that adults can relate to. And then, of course, you have the kids in there and they're having fun. But The Incredibles is a super enjoyable, entertaining movie. So it's working on two different levels. Where this movie, I cannot see what could possibly be enjoyable for kids in this movie.
So I can say my kid. So she's 7.
Yeah.
She liked the Phoebe Waller-Bridge character.
Yeah.
She liked Steve Carell as Blue. So she dialed into those guys. She loved she loved Keith. She was a
good.
big fan of Keith.
They took that straight out of Deadpool too. Another Ryan Reynolds. That's Deadpool 2. That's Brad Pitt's character, and
But he doesn't
I'm just saying it's the same. It's the same gag, though.
Does he trip over him?
And Brad Pitt is in IMDb as Keith.
Yeah,
I think that's
they
a wink
list
to,
him.
Oh,
as-
do they really?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. So it's a little recycled, but
I mean, okay, look, if you're having Brad Pitt at, which there's no sound to that
Right.
character, but that's kind of a definitely.
That's one
I
of-
don't know if that's recycled as much as if it's like a joke.
right. But I'm just saying, like, it's another Ryan Reynolds movie. Like,
Sure.
that at the end was one of the funnier parts, actually, to me. The Keith joke. Was,
yeah.
the
Yeah, I
payoff
would-
was good.
I would agree with
right?
that.
I laughed at that one. I'm like, okay, that's good. But where was I? Oh no, the characters, I get it, but if you go back and watch this trailer, so I had no idea what this movie was about, didn't watch the trailer, went and watched it afterwards. This trailer completely
It is a bait and switch.
it misleads the audience.
I would agree with that.
This,
It
this
cherry picks the most like wacky moments.
The
and-
only-
and they are moments.
yeah, the only
Yeah.
wacky moments, and they put a soundtrack to it. That soundtrack in the trailer is not in the movie.
Oh, sure.
And I'm not saying maybe they show up somewhere, there's a little bit, but from my recollection, 2 days later, going and watching the trailer, they make it look so fun, and there's songs that everyone knows going with the wackiness. But when you watch the trailer, having seen the movie, you can see under this, ignore the soundtrack playing, and you can see how dull and boring the scenes are, because now you can ignore how fun the trailer would make it look, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, no, that's just this movie of them walking around dull and
Well, yeah, I think of the Ryan Reynolds thing where he doesn't do the Ryan Reynolds thing in like Adventureland, right? But then you
He
see,
hadn't found it yet.
oh, I think in Adventureland he had.
yeah, because Van Wilder was the
and
beginning of the
Waiting and
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
stuff. But what was that movie? What was the
Buried?
one? Was it?
Buried is the first one I remember where he was playing like a serious dramatic.
That's true. But I'm thinking
There's that Denzel Washington movie where they're
Safe House is an incredible
I
action.
love Safe House.
Safe House
That
is
was
an
fun.
incredible action movie that gets overlooked all the time.
Yeah. He was in Smoking Aces too, wasn't he?
He's the main
Yeah.
cop in Smoking
And
Aces.
he's a little bit more of a serious
He's got
smart
that.
ass,
He's got
but,
that
right?
tinged. He's got the Deadpool thing going by then. But in it was for Netflix. It's where he go Adam 12. No, what's the Adam Project?
Love the Adam Project.
Yeah, that was
So that Ryan Reynolds is the one that I think they needed for this movie,
Yes.
where he's not happy. He's obviously got something going on, but he still has that charm.
That
Or
is a great point.
Yeah.
Because Adam
because
Project
he does not have that in this
Yes,
one. I
Adam
agree.
Project's really good, and he is down but not out. He still is a smart ass,
Right.
still has that. And here's the problem, and it's the same thing that Tom keeps
Who plays
hammering
the
home.
woman in that? Is it Emily Blunt?
Oh,
Is Emily Blunt the girl in that movie?
I don't
have
remember
no
that.
recollection.
I don't remember that, honestly.
All right.
But what Tom keeps hammering home here is that, so in an interview with Ryan Reynolds, someone said, hey, what did you do to prepare for this role? Like, what inspiration did you take? Blah, 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 yada, yada. And Ryan Reynolds goes, I pretty much just did Krasinski's script. It was so good, and like the only time I ad-libbed was at the interview scene where we were throwing off some random lines, and that's the problem. Ryan Reynolds was not allowed, or decided not to
chose
go
not
off,
to. Yeah.
decided not to go off script.
Well, I also
and the
want-
script isn't very good.
I do wonder.
Yeah.
I'm sure this happens sometimes where an actor reads a script and the way that they read it, they're like, "Yeah, this is really good," and then for whatever reason, when it gets to the screen, you're like, "This is not working."
Right,
You know
like
what I
if
mean?
a book
Like,
could be good and they adapt it even faithfully, but you're like, this doesn't work on screen.
look at. I mean, a prime example is the remake of The Shining.
Yeah.
That made for TV,
With Steven Weber.
the Steven Weber, Rebecca De Mornay Shining.
Where they be faithful to the book,
They
but it
are
doesn't.
like faithful to a T,
Uh-huh.
and it's just like, oh, I see why we changed some stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, this is like the shrubbery, like that's
Yeah.
just one of those things. It's like, no, I get it. Okay,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. It looks great on paper,
Yeah.
but it just does not
it
translate to the
also
screen.
wasn't made by an A-list filmmaker.
Right.
We're not going to talk on Mick Garris, who
No,
did-
not at all.
He's
He's
great.
good.
He's
He's
very
good.
good.
Yeah.
You know what I want, honestly? Let Flanagan do a mini series of The Shining, like a six issue, like it's a comic book, a 6-episode prestige format.
Yeah. Limited series.
I mean, he's like, I already did the end. I already did the ending. Let me just do the
Yeah.
whole thing. I'll do it for real this
that
time.
would be great if they gave. I mean, he obviously knows how to do TV. He knows how to make.
He's doing The
movies.
Dark Tower,
Yeah. Oh, are they doing that again?
Yeah.
They're
a
doing,
mini series for Amazon with Flanagan. Like, oh
Yeah,
you
they-
screwed it up the first time.
I mean, it's a good thing that they didn't. Yeah, they didn't keep trying to make that. a
yeah,
thing.
right. Oh man,
the
that
movie
was so
one.
bad.
So anyway, Krasinski's in the hospital. He's joking around that he has a broken heart. I mean, he literally has some kind of heart issue. But
He's having some sort
He's
of
got generic sick dad
Yeah.
disease.
which again,
The GSD. He's got the
Yeah,
GSD.
the old GSD.
GSD.
What I appreciate about that is I'm a firm believer in like having conversations with the kids where it's like, this is what this is. If you have questions, feel free to ask me. What I like about not the generic "my dad's in the hospital" thing is she's not asking any questions. She's just like, he's in the hospital. You know what I mean? Like it's not. I don't have to explain anything for this. Like this is a very easy movie for her to watch because it is very simple.
Yeah.
And
I guess I'm just like, but one, this kid isn't 6. She's 12.
That's true.
Right.
2, she's a very smart 12.
Yeah.
And she's already going to understand the medical process because she's went through this with her grandmother or with her mother. So like, I can't imagine that they would just leave it at.
Well, when he comes walking in with the bags, I was like, Jesus
IV
Christ, this guy's got
yeah.
got chemo, he's got cancer too. Like this kid
But
is.
that's the thing, and because he walks in like that, and you're like, what is wrong with him? Someone with heart issues probably shouldn't be up and goofing around and stuff. Like what? That's why. What is this generic heart disorder? Because you wouldn't be doing. You'd be in bed.
You know,
You'd be in the hospital.
Mandy Moore did the choreography for all
It's
of this.
different,
Well,
Mandy
it's
Moore.
the La La Land.
Yeah.
I
Mandy
was
Moore.
like, oh,
She was
Like, good
the
for her.
choreographer on So You Think You Can Dance and La La Land and there's another big one that she's done.
oh yes,
Yeah.
blah blah bland. That's right.
No.
Yes.
No, that would be this movie.
No.
That's all I heard on this movie. Blah, 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 bland.
So she is living with her grandma, and again, one of the things that I do love about these movies is just the ridiculous housing.
Yeah,
Like,
in the
it's-
$20 million brownstone in Brooklyn Heights.
Right.
Yeah.
This penthouse or this townhouse that you have in this perfect little neighborhood. I was like, oh yeah, I remember these kind of movies.
that has the perfect New York street
Yes.
scene.
Yes.
and yet is on the Hudson River overlooking the skyline of Manhattan.
which makes no sense.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Can we pick all the best parts of Manhattan and just put them
Yeah.
all in the same place?
Yeah, and then I was also confused by who owns the apartment because in the opening scene
They're all living there.
they're all living there, and then
Mom dies,
The
and
mom
they-
dies,
Yep.
and then they come back and it's abandoned, but it's the grandmother's apartment.
But it's not abandoned because
like
the
this-
grandma's living there.
Yeah, I couldn't get a bead on
That
who,
is true. I did
who
wonder.
owns this apartment.
And where are they going?
Yeah.
You know?
And you have an asset worth tens of millions of dollars. Like
that you're letting either your mom or your mother-in-law stay in for free.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess we don't.
Well,
we don't
and-
know the inner workings of their
right. I'm
financial.
just like, well, but whose is it? Because it's like, and if it's the grandma's apartment, then why did the daughter have a
Maybe-
bedroom? Maybe they stayed there
While
when
she
the
was
mom was
sick?
sick.
I did think
Could
that
be possible.
But, like-
and she was doing treatments around that area or something.
Yeah, but yeah,
which would make sense why they came back when Krasinski was sick.
yeah, I suppose
Maybe.
because they went to the
same
generic town with no hospital.
Well, they went to the same generic hospital in the same room
yeah.
where her mom died. It's like
You have this generic heart disease that is undeniably super expensive. Let's find a hospital that's out of network.
Yeah.
That tracks.
Yeah, right.
That tracks. And they did such a good job with mom's cancer.
Yeah, it
Right?
worked out great for her.
Let's go back there.
Yeah, let's go back there. Let's put my dad in the same place, same room, same bed.
Yeah.
This sounds like a great idea.
Well, now, I don't want to mislead the listeners, Joe, because you said she was living with the grandma, and I don't know if you can technically call it living because she's never there with any supervision. She roams the streets of New York with what we think is a strange adult.
Right. This grandma is a hot mess from a parenting
Would you let a
standpoint.
12-year-old girl in New York City all day, every day in 2024 roam the streets?
But it's also like, why aren't you in school? Like,
Well, even if it's
but it's
whatever.
not though. It's not though. Like, we could tell by her style of dress that it
Okay.
is fall, early fall.
Yeah,
'cause-
the leaves are turning.
leaves are
when they-
turning.
When
Like,
they
you
show
need
the
to-
idyllic Brooklyn Heights street.
That is because this movie has bad writing. But even so, would you let your 12-year-old girl
No.
roam the streets of New York by herself all day?
It is
With
funny
an,
that-
all
with,
night,
well, I mean,
all
with an A-list Hollywood actor, what
Yeah.
could possibly
What could-
go
what's
wrong?
the worst that could happen?
You can't even, we'll get there, but you can't even say, oh, well, she had this nice, who seemed like a good, nice person, Ryan Reynolds, adult stranger man. But like with that aside, whether it's with stranger
here's the
or
thing.
not.
nobody knew that he. Well, okay.
Well, I know, but
Nobody
that's
else
what I mean.
sees him,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But
Yeah.
even if you could say she had an adult supervision, well, first of all, that's weird because no one has ever talked to this man before.
Right.
But so with this adult, quote unquote, or by herself, like none of it makes sense. And I get, again, the whimsy and like, let's make a movie for kids about adventure and you're not supposed to think of all this stuff. But like at some point,
you know what's
that's
funny?
so
is
ridiculous.
We had a conversation about Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah.
And how you were like, it's a movie, don't worry about it. And now in this point, I'm like, it's a movie, don't worry about it. And I do think it's funny that it can depend on how you feel about the movie.
Yeah, if you if you like it, you'll turn a blind eye to certain
Correct.
things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same conversation.
That's interesting.
You know, where I said I didn't like the ending, and you're like, it's a movie, don't worry about it.
But I get it. There's what you're saying is true for certain on all movies, because if a movie is slow, it's like methodical and it's a slow burn movie. If you don't like it, it's boring. So like,
Sure.
I totally understand what you're saying. Now, Late Night with the Devil, I mean, this is a more grounded, realistic. I mean, Imaginary Friends is a kid's thing. But
what?
But I mean, like, this is the real world with a girl that even if she's imagining things, her parents are letting her roam the streets of New York.
The point of the Imaginary Friends is that it has to take place in a world that is otherwise grounded.
Sure. Yeah.
Or the imaginary friend aspect doesn't really carry much weight. Right.
Right. That's
and Late
fair.
Night
That's
with the
fair.
Devil has like supernatural element.
It's lost footage of a real thing that happened, Kevin.
Right, so I'm just saying that's a little different. But
Also, if you haven't seen Late Night with the Devil, do that.
yeah,
it's incredible.
Definitely watch it. Well, okay, I'm just going to get to it right now. Christopher Robin was the movie that this movie wanted to be. If you want to talk about
I don't think I saw that.
a good slow burn movie about Christopher Robin's an
Is that
adult.
the one with Ewan McGregor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Christopher
okay.
Robin is an adult.
The live action Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
He's grown up, but he's an adult. He's dealing with adult things. He's forgotten how to like have fun.
You're literally talking about Hook. You realize that, right?
well, it's a similar.
Lots of kids movies.
It's a similar
use this.
concept for
I know,
sure.
but I just know
Well,
this guy.
You know, I know.
Right.
Hook is a better movie than this. But they all deal with these same things. But Christopher Robin is about his imaginary friends, Winnie the Pooh, that he created as a child. This movie is trying to do the same thing, although the main character is an adult in that. But this little girl is almost like they're treating her like, well, she's
I think you get that idea, right?
Yeah.
With all the basically what it comes down to is and I thought they were trying to do something with her name, and I couldn't figure it out because they keep calling her B, and then the kid's like, well, what is your name? She's like, this is my B. It's what my mom called me. But
spoilers, she's B. Arthur. This is an origin story for the Golden Girls.
somebody did post a video. Is it Rue McClanahan?
Yeah.
When she's talking and she's like, I'm 41 years old, and the girl's like, I'm older than the Golden Girls, and it's very weird to see
the way
a
that
41-year-old
people,
who look that
dress and
yes,
their hair and
very
everything.
different. But they keep covering her name. They kept covering her name tag with her hair, and I was like, what is the reveal gonna be with her name? Like
They were doing the old what was it? Ben Parker. They were doing the old Ben P.
God,
or Parker name tag thing. You know.
Do you think that I wonder? Like when those
What
numbers,
should I name it? Pop.
Yeah.
I'm gonna name him. Oh, there's an earthquake outside.
I wonder if
so
that was the final. That has to be it, right?
dumb.
Where
For
they
the
were just like
Marvel cinema.
where they're just
Sony.
like, just give them to Lord and Miller. Just give it all to them.
I think so.
We've screwed this up. They've got another movie coming out, so who knows how bad?
Craven?
Yeah, which makes sense.
Craven is their Aquaman. Seriously, like
Well,
where everyone's like, we're done at this point.
I
Who
do
cares?
think that this is funny that we're talking about this, but
Yep.
I do think that Craven can work on his own.
Yeah.
Because he's got a whole story that doesn't involve Spider-Man before he gets to Spider-Man.
His origin story is like a prelude to Spider-Man.
Like his story
It's
is
not
Craven's
linked.
last hunt.
Yeah.
So
Right.
he's got a whole story before that.
It's
so
not
like
linked to Spider-Man.
yes, he does
Like,
not
yeah.
become Craven because of Spider-Man.
Craven can work if it's good.
It's not going to be.
Right, but if it's good, and then, but in the end, you don't want him. I mean, it has to connect to Spider-Man to hook you in. Like,
yeah, I think
now I'm
maybe
gonna go after,
he sees him on TV. He's like, oh, there's the big game.
just like the ending of Venom 2. It's the exact same. Who's that? Oh, I want to go get that.
Wait, is that right? Is that
Yeah.
how Venom 2 ends?
It's either the post credit
It is
or
the
whatever.
you're right
Where he's
because
in
he gets zapped over.
Remember
to,
when they
yes.
brought him into the MCU and they were like, "Nope, right
Get him
at the
out.
end."
Get him out.
He was in there for
No take backs.
We'll keep this little piece of the
a post-credit
symbiote.
scene.
yeah, you take him. I don't want him. Yeah, I don't
So,
want
So she
It's like a last draft pick at school. We're like, I guess I'll take him back.
Yeah, no, I've been there.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So she
That was
runs.
hurtful.
So as she's on the streets of New York doing what she does, she finds this cartoon, like this old timey cartoon character, looks like some old school Mickey Mouse type character, and follows her up the stairs. And apparently she goes into this room of this guy played by Ryan Reynolds, who seems like a recluse. Don't know what his deal is. But eventually we find out that he is trying to rehome all the imaginary friends that have lost their kids.
Correct. And all of what I do think is kind of fun is all of the imaginary friends that we see at like the old folks home are voiced by someone.
Yeah.
There's
The credit list of this
Voiced by
movie.
a famous friend of John
Of John-
Krasinski.
That's exactly it. So you've got Sebastian.
Well, George
Maniscalco,
Clooney.
Yes,
George Clooney,
Clooney.
Matt Damon.
Who was Matt
The
Damon?
Flower.
Oh, Matt Damon was the
Yeah.
flower.
Sonny.
Lou
That's
Gossett
funny.
Jr.
Lou Gossett
His
Jr.
last movie?
I believe
It has
so,
to
yeah.
be, right? Like yeah.
I guess it doesn't have to be, but I think
But
I don't know, probably is.
He probably wasn't booking a lot of work
No.
in 93.
But you hear Bradley Cooper is in there.
Who was Bradley Cooper?
He was the one that sounded like Rocket Raccoon.
Okay, so the interesting thing
Sam
about
Rockwell.
but this movie has this list again in the trailer. At the end of the trailer, they crowd the screen with
Yeah,
names, right?
yeah.
And they all have like one line
I
in
think
the
Amy
retirement
Schumer's
home.
in there. I think Amy Schumer's the gummy bear.
Yeah, that's what I saw later. But during the movie, I could not tell who were the famous people. Like they're in there so quick, and George Clooney is the astronaut. I can tell because it was George Clooney. But it's just funny they got all these names.
Who was the glass of water?
I had no idea.
Oh, that was the one I couldn't figure out.
But they were fine.
that
but
was Bradley Cooper.
the glass of water
Was
was
it real? Okay.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell who any of them were, so I thought it was funny that they used them to get all these names, but none of them were really in it long enough to where you could even digest, like, oh, that's what. It just,
Right.
They hit you with a line,
Yeah, so Phoebe Waller-Bridge is Blossom,
the main one.
the main
right.
one that looks like an old-timey Disney character. Lou Gossett Jr. is Louis the teddy bear. Aquafina is Pop.
Oh,
Bubble.
yeah. Okay.
John Krasinski is the marshmallow. Emily Blunt is the unicorn. George Clooney is the spaceman. Bradley Cooper is Ice. Matt Damon is Sonny the flower.
Who was the mannequin?
I'm getting there. Bill Hader is the banana.
Yeah, there
That's
we
the
go.
only
Yeah,
one you
yeah,
could really
yeah.
tell was like.
Richard Jenkins was the art
Oh,
teacher.
That
yeah,
I could
that's,
tell,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Michael Key is a blob of slime.
Oh, I had no idea that was
Yeah,
him.
yeah, that makes
Blake
sense.
Lively is Octopus.
Well, that's again,
a
no
cat
idea.
who wears an octopus costume.
I
Sebastian
don't remember seeing that one.
Maniscalco is the magician mouse.
Who I thought that mouse was the same mouse from Sing.
Oh,
It's weirdly the same. Again, weirdly the same character design as the mouse from
but
Sing.
what are you gonna do? That's
Yeah.
the mouse from Dumbo. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
right.
Christopher Maloney is Cosmo the detective.
Oh, that's funny.
that one, I had no idea what he was yelling. I thought that was
I,
weird.
he was just being weird.
I know, but like the
that
way
they-
he had like a catchphrase, but you're like,
That's hilarious.
Tell me
That's
what he was saying.
Chris
Yeah.
Maloney.
And then, so Matthew Reeves is Andromeda's 3, the ghost. Sam Rockwell is the guardian dog. Maya Rudolph is the alligator. Amy Schumer's the gummy bear.
Emily Blunt was the unicorn.
Jon Stewart is a robot, and Brad Pitt is Keith, but Keith doesn't talk. So
Yeah.
Oh, that's really funny.
yeah.
But I did see in an interview that Emily Blunt was the unicorn because I couldn't tell
Of
really
course she
who.
was. Yeah, I mean,
She's like, put me in this movie. Is what he says.
well, he's like, hey, I got this thing. Can you just read this real quick? Can you just hand it to her on the couch? Can you read that? Thank you very much.
So the premise of this film, again, like the whole thing is them, like she comes on board, she's trying to look for something to do, and so she can see all the imaginary friends. Ryan Reynolds, she follows him into this house, and he has this like Monsters Inc. type of moment where there's a little girl sleeping, and the big purple monster voiced by Steve Carell, who I don't think Steve Carell was a very good voice for it, so that didn't really work
So
for
here,
me.
I think the problem is, I think Steve Carell is a great voice actor, but when he's Gru, because he's doing something.
He's great as Gru, yeah. This one, I think, like to me, that's more of like a Zach Galifianakis or like the big
I could see
monster.
that.
I need someone a little more animated and
Jack
Silly. That was the other 100%. That when I was thinking, it's either Zach Galifianakis or Jack Black would be the monster.
Yeah.
But anyway, the big monster's like trying to go find a kid, but he's like knocking into things, and they don't want to wake this kid up. And Ryan Reynolds has this close call, which really wouldn't have been a close call, come to find out, but he almost
that's true.
The kid almost
Why
sees
would
him. He's
he?
hiding under a bed, but like,
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, it's the more I think about it, the more it's like, oh, they're trying to Sixth Sense it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, surprise.
But then I think this movie cheats a lot because Ryan Reynolds. Should we spoil it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Ryan Reynolds is her imaginary friend.
That she has forgotten.
That she has forgotten.
So as a kid, she drew this clown and pretended that he was around. Maybe while the mom was
I think that's
sick.
what it was,
she invented the
yeah.
imaginary
I think
friend to get her
I
through
think-
it,
yes,
right?
yes.
Okay. So Ryan Reynolds was a clown, and that's why he's a human as opposed to all these monsters, because he's a person in clown makeup and outfit and everything. But throughout this film, Ryan Reynolds is opening doors and interacting with things, but
Is he opening doors?
He is 100%.
Okay.
But when you watch the movie, and the way I figured it out halfway through was none of the adults ever talk to him.
Yeah.
They're always talking to the little girl.
It's the Sixth Sense thing.
Yeah. So I turned to Ryan and I said, "Oh, he's imaginary," and
Oh,
he's
so
like,
let Ryan watch the movie, will
I
you?
have to do these things. I have to.
It's fair if you don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Sure.
If this was his second time seeing the movie and he said that,
He's watching. He's
but
watching
if
Star
you're
Wars.
just
like,
figuring it out.
It's like
Yeah.
And Ryan fell asleep for 45 minutes of this movie. He was so bored during this movie.
Gwen was in.
He hated it. But he's 14. I don't know if it makes a difference, but he wanted to see it. He's like, Ryan Reynolds, it should be fun. But yeah, he literally fell asleep. I had to nudge him. He was snoring and he kept going back to sleep. I'm like,
Oh, I'd have punched your kid right in the face.
well, every time he started doing it, I nudged him. But this movie feels like a bunch of vignettes, like we've said before. Here's funny moments that monsters could interact with kids and do goofy things in this, but it's all strung together by this idea that I don't think is completely fleshed out. Like, what are the rules?
I would agree with
how do
that.
they all connect, right? Because when this little girl apparently by herself breaks into an abandoned amusement park and is just going through all these rides and things, another thing a 12-year-old should not be doing alone in a strange place. But when she goes to this place.
Also, that leads to she should be in school, right? Because if this is summertime, Coney Island's going to be open.
I guess they were thinking this place. Oh, was it just temporarily shut down? I thought it was abandoned.
No, it's Coney Island.
I mean, I think they close it down in the winter.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they're in. I mean,
so it's just closed.
Yeah.
But it is. See, so that definitely doesn't make any sense.
I will say Gwen picked up on that really quick. She's like, "Oh, they're in New York," and I was like, "How do you know that?" And she was like,
"Mom lets me run around there all the time." By myself.
I'm gonna go talk to a lawyer. What are you doing in New York?
It says some attractions are open all year round. Some attractions are only open during spring through fall months.
And this whole thing was shut down. So, I mean...
Okay, so here's the thing. And again, I just want to understand the rules of the movie. I don't want to try to...
Then you're doing better than they are.
Right. So, like... I don't mind a fantastical fantasy movie where things are not like they are in the real world. I'm not saying everything has to be grounded, but I'm trying to understand the rules. So she can see imaginary friends. We find out, spoiler alert again, Ryan Reynolds is her imaginary friend. Somehow she can see imaginary friends of other people that are now adults grown up, and that's fine if she has some kind of power. I'd maybe like some kind of an explanation. Like, I was guessing that Ryan Reynolds was her mom's imaginary friend, and that's why she somehow has some connection to these other characters and can see, like...
So I thought that there is like this human who is kind of like the familiar, who does have the ability to see, whose imagination is so vast that they have the ability to see the other imaginary friends.
I would have loved that. That's what I'm saying. Like,
it's like imaginary. As awful
I didn't
as
see
that,
it, but I wasn't on that one.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
As awful as that movie was, there is that
There's
idea.
an explanation
There's an
of some
explanation
sort?
to
Okay.
why she can see other things in this world.
I would have just loved because think about it. So she can see other real life adults' imaginary friends, right?
Yeah.
Why or how? Okay. I mean, again, I don't need a super explanation, but then address it. Be like, you are whatever, so I'm looking for something. Then they go to Coney Island and we see through some flashback where she's talking to the bear, the Louis Gossett Jr. character. And we see that bear is hanging up in Coney Island. She used to go to Coney Island with the dad and the mom. So that tells me that is actually her imaginary friend. But we're led to believe that these are all...
But he's not.
Right.
But
we see that. And so
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, I mean, maybe that's their red herring to try and throw us off the Ryan Reynolds thing.
But see, to me, that's them trying to be cute, but not exactly knowing what the connections are, what the rules are. Because I thought it would have been great if all the characters were all her imaginary friends. But now you're introducing their real imaginary friends to other real people. Then you're like, well, why does she see them? Why aren't these just her? Because she's writing.
Well,
this
they
book
do. They do kind of say like it's taken as a joke, but Steve, the Blue is like, she's the chosen one, and he's like, all right, don't freak her out.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if that's in this world, there are humans who just have the ability to access the imaginary friends, like, and to see them in the world once that door is unlocked, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because that's what they're trying to do, right? Is she figures out that, so there's this boy in the hospital, and they're trying to fight. She realizes that maybe we can give this kid a friend. So they start doing like a roll call or an interview when we find out.
I thought he died that next day when she
I
came
did
back
too.
to the flower.
That's the whole thing. Is
And
I
his
was like,
bed
they're
was
gonna...
left with the toys in it. I really did, but it's like this movie is bleak enough where in
It's possible,
dealing with
for
death,
sure.
I
It's
thought that it was
possible.
trying to teach people like it doesn't always work out in the end.
Well,
right?
that's where I honestly.
I
So
thought
that's
that
what
was going in the end. I know.
kicked me in the dick when I thought the dad was going to die. So I start crying. Gwen, I can feel her looking at me, and I feel her. You know, she's little. She's not. You know, I feel her little hand like on my chest, and I was like, she's like, "You're okay," and I was like, "Shut up, watch the movie."
But because
I
like,
did,
That's making it worse.
yeah, it was making it worse. But we've already killed the mom.
Right. The dad's in for major
It is
surgery.
kind of a bleak movie.
It
like
is.
it's possible. I'm like, if they kill this dad, good lord.
Or get there. I have some.
Also,
thoughts.
Krasinski's like, I'm playing the dad in this movie. I'll die. I'll take the hit because he dies in a
Yeah,
quiet.
right.
Spoilers. He dies in a quiet place.
Yeah.
Sacrificing himself for his daughter.
You know, another just weird moment apropos of nothing. It isn't good or bad. It just really cracked me up. We've talked before about A Quiet Place and the weird way in which Krasinski shushes people.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't
The
put
hook on the
he doesn't
nose
put the
thing?
tip of the finger over his mouth. He puts like the base of the finger where his finger's going up over his nose.
Okay.
Right? There's a scene in this movie where the daughter shushes one of the imaginary friends she's hiding behind the couch, and she does the exact
No
same
way.
thing.
He tells her to do
that's
it.
so
The exact
that's
same
so
shush.
interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder.
It's a clue. It's a
yeah.
clue.
They're all connected.
Yeah, maybe this is this
gotta tell you,
amazing,
though, I gotta tell you,
mind-blowing movie that
I saw the poster for Quiet Place Day 1, and it's like,
well, Peter Nyong'o, I'm in.
which is fine, but I saw Day 1 in part 2.
Right. But
So-
but it doesn't follow like
It
this
follows
whole
different
movie is going to
people.
follow what other people went on the entire day one.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like
okay,
we know
okay.
we know what happened when John
I'm like,
Krasinski
I
was
saw
in,
it.
Yeah, we saw what happened to him in day one, but this is like elsewhere what happened in day. You could
Okay.
tell infinite stories about day one around the world. And,
I guarantee you they're going to tie this into Cloverfield, which I think it was supposed to be. I think that's right.
Really?
I think the first Quiet Place was going to tie into Cloverfield. Like they were Cloverfield monsters.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because
I
remember,
feel like it's too big to tie into it.
It is now.
That damaged of a franchise.
boy,
Hey, that's their fault, man. 1 and 2, Cloverfield and Cloverfield Lane
10
were
Cloverfield
great.
Lane. Oh man,
I don't know why they went and did
Cloverfield
that other thing.
paradox
That
is-
was
wow.
huge mistake.
Yeah, so she starts. They have the interviews. This is what you see in the trailers:
Yeah.
is them interviewing all of the. And she starts writing. She starts drawing their picture.
Oh, and so the imaginary friend. So if we're to believe, I'm sorry, because I'm trying to figure
No,
this
you're
out. The little girl can see other real human adults. We believe that those are really their imaginary friends, right?
Yeah.
She's not making this up.
Right.
Bobby Moynihan has an imaginary friend.
They tell her what their kids
Yeah.
used to do,
And we see it. I'm just saying, like, those are real, right? So that all really happened. These people grew
Right.
up and they had these. She can see their real imaginary.
She's not having a psychotic
Yes.
break.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So there's a retirement home for imaginary friends, right? Call it a foster's home for imaginary friends.
Just off the top of your head.
So why is our main character so worried about being deleted from existence because
Right.
his imaginary friend doesn't remember him anymore?
They have a great life at this retirement home.
Seems
Yeah, I guess
fine
that's
to me.
everybody seems happy.
And they've all lived there for child to adult, all the
I
adults
mean, at
in the
least
movie were
20,
children.
30
Right?
years,
Yeah,
right?
right,
I mean,
right.
So-
Bobby Moynihan's got to be mid-40s.
Sure.
And so what are the rules of, so if they're all living in this retirement home and then she comes in and she starts changing it and doing all this stuff, it's like, well, why is no one like, it's imagination. Why is she the one that comes in and changes their retirement home?
So I think the way I interpreted that is
Yeah.
the Louis Gossett Jr. Bear says you can do whatever you want here. You can make this whatever you want. So when she starts changing the floors or changing the rooms and giving some of these imaginary friends like kind of a better place to live, that's why they're not pissed, is because they're kind of getting rooms that are dedicated to them.
Yeah.
Other than that weird cat that's just watching TV like an old
I just wonder why it wasn't already like that.
I get that they're the imagined,
Yeah.
not the imagination, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So I get that maybe they don't control their own physical environment, but by using that logic, then there should have been someone who imagined this place for them to live in the first place.
Because they live in
100%.
an imaginary world. That's what I'm saying. So why are they in a imaginary world? It's all imaginary.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Why would
That's
the dragon not be in an
completely-
amazing castle or whatever? Like everything is made
that was
up.
that looked like the dragon from Shrek, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Everything
looks like the
something from
But I mean,
something else.
same colors, same everything.
I don't remember honestly.
Oh,
but it's a
Shrek. It's very funny.
But it's just weird that they live in an imaginary place, but somehow they get stuck in a imaginary place. Like
That's
it's
a great.
imaginary.
That is, I don't disagree.
It should all be amazing for them, and so that's why I think bad writing.
But somebody had to create it. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Right.
who
Is like,
created it?
who created that? Yeah.
I'm going to imagine the dilapidated hole you're all going to live in for the like
underneath
Well,
an
I do-
abandoned amusement
Yeah,
park.
It's not abandoned. It's Coney Island.
right? And no one else is like. What else do they do with this area?
I do wonder
because
if
it's half baked.
Yeah,
These
yeah,
are
yeah.
all
I agree.
interesting ideas, but they're half baked. They when you think about them, the logic doesn't check out because they just thought, oh, that would be cool. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Did anyone
Yeah.
ask? Well, but what if no? That would be cool. Like, and it just doesn't
And
work.
they make it sound like it's sad that these kids, as they grow up, forget their imaginary friends.
Yeah.
Look, let me tell you something. The last thing you want is an imaginary friend is to be the imaginary friend of a 14-year-old boy.
Yeah.
You do not want
I gotta
that.
tell you, that 14-year-old is fucking that friend.
You do not want that, sir.
Without
or
question.
madam.
or an adult running around talking to their imaginary
Yeah.
friend.
Well, that's just a mental
Oh,
illness.
it's called Ted.
yeah, but the whole thing is like,
I love that movie.
It's a great movie.
That movie, 1 and 2 are both.
I thought 2 was
I thought
funny.
t-
I think it's
I
a
think-
little long. They could have trimmed it and tightened it up, and it would have been
I
better.
think the
But
show is good.
I heard the show's great.
I haven't watched the
It's,
show.
if you like 1 and 2,
Yeah.
it's the same.
It's great though, and I do want to see it. But like the premise of this movie, that's what I mean. This movie, who is this for, right? Because I feel like this is a movie for adults that forgot how to have fun and stuff, but it's a kid's movie, but really the ideas are more for adults because if you bring a 7-year-old to this, they probably still do have imagination and fun. They don't need to remember how to be a kid. They are a kid. Why are they? The monsters are cute looking, I get it, but like the theme of the movie is talking about stuff for adults.
You know what Gwen said that freaked her out is she was looking, I guess when they're looking at the picture of the grandma when she was dancing, and when the grandma's looking at it, it looks normal. But when Elizabeth is looking at it, you can see the imaginary friend in the background. And Gwen said, that scared she's like, that scared
she is your
I
child.
She
would
is my
not
child.
be surprised. yeah.
She says it when you're not around, I assure you.
That's the older one. The younger one, I haven't screwed up so bad yet.
She's just better at hiding
That's
it.
probably true. She will ask me. She was like, can I say this word? I go, what word? She goes, the SH word. I go, shoot. Absolutely.
She's like, can I say
yeah, go for
no?
it.
What about
Yeah,
No.
definitely.
Depends on how you're using it.
Yeah. Well, the rule is inside the car, say whatever you want. Once we're outside of the car, don't do that.
our rules, especially as when they hit teenage years? Like, look, you can talk to your friends however you want, but like around us, no.
Oh, see, I'm even. Don't use them like at me.
Yeah,
Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
well,
hey,
for
whoa,
sure.
whoa.
Yeah,
But I don't, I don't care if she's like, this is bull. I've gotten that a few times. And I was
Yeah.
like, fair enough.
But so like
Go do what I told you to do.
people create these imaginary friends to get them through things, and especially kids, right? The whole thing is like she created Ryan Reynolds' character to get her through the mom in the hospital,
Yeah.
and then when she felt she didn't need it anymore, they went away.
Or
Now-
no, I think when mom dies. I think mom dies is the point for
it's kind of the
Elizabeth.
death of her childhood.
Yes, where
Yeah.
she is no longer a child. She's lost her mother, and I think that's when.
That makes sense. I mean, they never said that, but I think that that's a fair implication that doesn't necessarily have to be spelled out for us.
Yeah.
Right.
And the same, it conversely, where the home came from does need to be spelled out for us.
Yes.
Like
So
that-
she grew up. She didn't see the imaginary friends anymore. Dad's in the hospital. Imaginary friends come back, which makes sense, right? That checks out with the logic. Now, look, they're back because I need them. I need my imagination. So the moral of the story, I think, should be somewhere along the lines of it's okay to be a kid, right? Don't grow up too fast. It's okay to be a kid. But then at the end, all the adults get imaginary friends, and it's like,
well,
what do
okay.
you-
So the way I interpret that is, we have all grown up, and we're all adults, and every part of our lives is super serious, and we're on. I think with the Bobby Moynihan one is the one that kind of hits home the most. where I think he's kind of like middle management in whatever he's doing. He's got this big
pitch something.
presentation or a pitch.
I think he's an outside. I don't think he works for
that
company.
could be.
I think he was going in to pitch something, and he's like,
freaking
I've got this
out.
idea for you,
And he has no one there to kind of be like, you're good. Like, you've got this.
Yeah.
So having Blue show back up and kind of and he never sees him.
Mm-hmm.
He just puts his hands on his shoulder and he says, you got this.
Yeah.
So I think that everybody getting their imaginary friend back isn't about, to me, I interpret it as like, it's just that little extra push. And we don't see any, and this is a weird thing given that I am single, but you don't see any of them with partners, right? So Krasinski doesn't have a partner.
I feel like they kind of don't have anyone else.
They don't have anybody else, right?
Yeah.
So you've got, they need us, not that they need it, but it's nice to have somebody say, hey, I'm thinking about you, or you're going to be okay. So when we see the nurse find the alligator, right? She embraces the alligator because she's afraid of the dark. All of those different people, when they find that extra imaginary friend, it's not about you. It's okay to not be serious all the time, but I think it's like, it's okay to have someone watch your back a little bit or give you that extra nudge of encouragement.
I guess
Comfort, I guess.
But like the little girl is the main character, and the movie ends with these adults because the premise of the movie is like, we're gonna find new kids for these imaginary friends, which I think is a fun premise. But they switch it halfway through, if even, and they're like, well, we're just gonna get the imaginary friends back to their people because we know they belong to them, and then they do in the end, and I'm like, but to me, that's a movie for adults. Like, you're teaching adults it's okay,
that's
whatever.
fair.
But the movie started off with a little girl and her dad's in the hospital, and you have imaginary friends. And, like, that's why I think the movie's like, who is this for? Because I feel like he's trying to be like, here's this movie and message for adults, but here's a kid's movie, and this kid is going through this. And you know what I mean? It's just, it's a little jumbled to where I feel like what they're doing in the end, Christopher Robin did better. That is Christopher Robin. He's an adult. He's busy. He's stressed. He forgot what it was like to have fun.
He
and have
forgot who
imagination.
Peter Pan was.
Yes. So that is like, if this was a movie about Ryan Reynolds needing to remember that story, then that would track throughout the movie. But it's like, this is a movie about the little girl, and they end up with adults. It's okay to have someone catch your. You know what I mean? The message to me was just very wishy-washy. It just jumped tonally. The point of it jumped around, and that's
I mean, what is the goal in this movie?
Yeah.
Is it to reunite them with their original friends? No. Is it to pair them up with new people? Well, no.
Yeah.
Until yes, but not
then
really.
not really.
Yeah.
Is it to get them out of this home or to make this home
And they act
better?
like
It's like the Iraq War. Like, the mission statement keeps changing. Like, what is our goal here?
exactly. That's
Weapons of mass destruction, Tom.
Yeah.
That's what we were told that they had. That's why we went there.
Then that's why the movie feels like a series of vignettes strung together.
That's
by
not going to get us those 500 subscribers, by the way.
but
No, I think the Republicans now pretend like they were against the Iraq War because Trump, in retrospect, says that he knew exactly what was going to happen and he was against it.
Are you
Even though
serious right
there's
now?
Audio. Yeah, because they're like, oh, that's Bush. He's a mess. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Next
So,
November is
They
going
can
to suck.
not only can they gaslight you, they can gaslight themselves. Go on.
But so why not, if once you find out they've got this retirement home and you can make it amazing for them,
Yeah.
Right.
like, why not have it be about that? But then maybe it's too close to that cartoon. That's
But
all
then
about the home.
it's also
Right.
too close to Toy Story, right? Because Toy Story, that whole, what was it? So Andy has them in 1 and 2. Does he give them away at the end of 2?
He gives them away at the end of 3.
And then they just go from
think.
person to person. So it's
No, 3 is where you get is.
Yeah, 3 at the end, he gives them to the little girl at the
Okay,
daycare.
yeah, because we think that's where the whole thing shuts
Yeah.
down. Like, and then
Oh,
4 is she has them,
and then
now,
she gives them
yeah.
away, right? Doesn't, because how do they?
No, 4, they're on a road trip or something, and they just go.
Oh,
They fall out the window at a rest stop or something, then go to the antique store. or
okay,
something,
yes.
And then Buzz is with the RV or something, and Woody is at the antique store
with Bo
They-
Peep.
Yeah,
They're looking
I love
for
4.
Bo Peep. That's what it is. Yeah.
I love 4. I think that's phenomenal.
they're all-
The 3
they're
was
all-
so good to where people were like, we don't need another one. So I think people weren't willing to give it a chance. But
Sure.
anyone that saw it and gave it a chance was like, this is really good.
Now they're 5's coming, right?
Now we'll see if 5.
Yikes.
You got to do it for the right reasons, right? Like 4, they had a story and it worked really well.
I do want to talk.
Now Iger's like, more sequels because everything's failing.
except for Marvel stuff. We're going to put the kibosh on everything Marvel.
No,
Just-
well,
Even the Marvel stuff has been
no,
struggling.
it has been.
Yeah.
But so I
that's
I
why
saw,
they're going to try to bring them all back.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I saw a trailer for Inside Out 2, which looks great, but I did find it interesting that Bill Hader is not the voice.
Yeah, they fired
And
Bill Hader and
Mindy Kaling.
Mindy Kaling because they wanted too much money. They wouldn't pay them.
Oh.
So this $1 billion Pixar movie, it's like they won't pay.
I
the
listened to
people
those
that-
voices.
yeah.
I was like, well, that's not
Yeah.
who that is. What a waste.
So they wrote them out. So they put them as like little bits to where you hopefully don't notice it, and then it's new emotions.
Which is fine.
Which is fine, but-
the new emotions make sense.
yeah.
But
I hate that when they won't pay people. It's like, they made the
This
movie,
movie's going to make so much
and
money.
it makes
Yes.
so much money. Like, pay Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling. Pay them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They were great in those roles, and now you've got sound-alikes. And
But I guess Louis C.K.'s, not Louis C.K., Louis Black is like, yeah, man, I'll take whatever you're going to give me. That's fine. I guess you can't fire Amy Poehler.
Well, yeah, she's the main one.
Yeah.
Well, and I also don't think Louis Black has probably made as
The
much
draw power.
I don't think he's made as much money as Mindy Kaling or Bill Hader has.
I
Like,
don't
I mean, I
think
think
you're
he
wrong.
does okay.
His rate isn't as high as
But
theirs.
like he basically makes, I would think, like his biggest thing is the Daily Show. Well, that doesn't live in syndication. That's not generating revenue for him now.
Right.
So he really only makes money off touring at this point.
That's true.
And the books
That's
he's
true.
what's written and stuff like that. But like,
Hader's got shows, Kaling's got shows,
Hader,
he created
yeah.
shows, and they've got
Yeah.
big credits.
and Mindy Kaling's making producer money.
Yeah.
Plus, she's a very successful author.
Both are true.
Yeah. So she doesn't need to mess around.
She's got
with
that office paycheck.
It's like, pay me or don't.
Right,
But
I
it's
don't
like,
care.
but I don't get why big corporations like they're so short-sighted. Well, we can't pay them if their rate's $10 million. We'll only pay them $4 million or whatever. But it's like, so you're willing to lose on the back end tens or hundreds because people are like, oh, they don't have the original people. Like,
Right.
Why be so short-sighted? Write it off. It's all
It's
a
not
write-off.
short-sighted.
Just
It's greed.
well, I know, but that's what I'm
That's
saying.
the-
But they're like, we need to save $5 million, and they're not thinking, well, maybe we would make $50 million by that
You
decision.
know what I would love to see?
What's that?
So since Andy Muschietti is doing Batman Brave and the Bold,
Mm-hmm.
and he's already worked with Bill Hader, let Bill Hader be the Joker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
could see that.
That'd be wild and great. So she figures out that instead of hooking up the old imaginary friends with new people, we'll just get them back to the adults. We get there is a lot of like musical interludes and big dance numbers. We've got B has a massive dance number at the house, at the imaginary friend house. We've got the grandma who says, oh, I used to be, I wanted to be a dancer, but I didn't. And then she realizes
The dance number was one of the first fun things in the movie, and I just wish there was,
It was
more
big
of that.
and fun.
For,
I'd agree.
For
Yeah,
a kids
totally.
movie, right? Like I get that you can tackle serious subject matter, but you can also have fun throughout.
Yeah.
And I felt like this movie, the first thing that was fun to me was the house transforming, Ryan Reynolds running away. Oh my god, from these things. That was fun, right? You
Yeah.
were like, oh my gosh, okay, we're in for something. And then it's kind of dour. I did think when he fell into the pool and went out the other side to the beach,
That's cool.
and then climbed out of the painting. I'm like, that was cool looking.
I think that's
That was
very
neat.
inventive. I like that a lot.
And then they do the dance number. So he like gets out, and then they're like, "Oh, you're on," and then he goes to sing with Tina Turner.
But not Tina Turner.
But I guess that's who it's supposed to be.
Absolutely is who it's
Yeah,
supposed
it's
to be.
supposed to be.
I mean,
Yeah.
we see one of her records
But
later.
but
well,
like,
and because the girl is singing to Tina Turner songs when in the video.
Oh, in the video. Yeah, you're
in
right.
the old home videos.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
so that's I guess part of her imagination, her memory.
because I
Right?
think
Absolutely,
this movie
yeah.
is supposed to take place in the 90s, right?
oh,
Oh, is it?
Is
I
it?
wasn't sure.
That's what I saw one review said, and I'm like, did I miss that? But I mean, if you
I
think
missed
about
that
it,
too.
Well,
there are no
there's-
smartphones.
there's no phones. That's true. And the video camera is like one of those old school, like
I just
flip
thought
out.
they were being hipster.
That's what I thought too.
I thought so too.
but there are no smartphones in this
Okay.
movie.
That's
And
true.
So I think it's supposed to take place in the 90s.
that makes more sense then. But when they get to that moment and it's like him singing with, like, I don't know, it kind of fell flat to me. Again, I like the dance number aspect, but I don't know. It just seemed like it thought it was being real cute or whatever. But then it's like, well, why is Ryan Reynolds like, I don't know, I don't want to be
That's
here.
not his jam. Like I've never seen him be that. I've never seen him do like theater jazz hands and like
Yeah.
big dance numbers. I've never seen
I
him
guess
do
I
that.
just wish that Ryan Reynolds was
Didn't he do
in-
one in Didn't he do one in that Will Ferrell Christmas movie for Apple?
Oh yeah, I
Oh.
loved that movie. That movie does not get the attention
never
it
saw it.
deserves. It's
was good.
really fun.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
It's fun.
movie deserves a lot more love. That should be a Christmas classic. That is
Interesting.
fun. Yeah,
Will, you only get one.
Yeah.
Will Ferrell gets one.
right.
That's probably
He's the king of the Christmas classics.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they do that routine. That's actually fun. Like it's the dance number's fun. And then they pair people up.
Yeah,
like you said.
everybody pairs back up. The dad is okay. And this is when B realizes who.
Oh, yeah,
Ryan
let's
Reynolds
not
is.
skip all of it.
Oh.
Let's talk about how manufactured and manipulative that scene was. The hospital. Okay, the dad has had a heart procedure. We know throughout the whole movie he's having this heart procedure. The hospital gives this stressful call with no details to the oh, it's your dad. I'm sure he's okay, but we gotta go. Let's run to the hospital. Oh my god, let me check in. The grandma's talking. We don't hear anything they say. The girl runs in. Like, you're telling me this guy had a procedure and the family is not informed in any way, shape, or form, or the kid is not informed in any way to not think, oh, let me walk in, is my dad dead? Like
wouldn't you be there for the procedure?
Yeah, and waiting. When you go in and they'd be like, yeah, he's resting. It went great. He's just sleeping. Like, that is why you were completely manipulated by all that. Because
and then they imply that her showing up made him feel better, and I'm just like, boy, I feel bad for the kids seeing this movie
whose dad didn't come out of it.
Mom or dad didn't get better. Well, sorry.
Guess you didn't love your parents
Susie,
enough.
I guess you didn't love your dad enough.
But that
maybe try harder on your mom, or
Right.
you're staring down the barrel of foster care.
Sorry, bud.
Yeah.
But that scene with the unknown heart surgery, with you hardly check in with the dad. She comes in, gives him flowers, and leaves.
But also,
no details.
You're right. She does run in, and he's just laying there.
Yeah.
It's not like he's got oxygen on his face.
Yeah.
He's not like, it's not like I don't disagree.
And she's talking to him, telling him this story, breaking down, crying, trying to tell him this story, like, oh my god, dad, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, how this should have gone. It's like, your dad has successful surgery. He's sleeping.
Feel free to go talk to him if you
That
want
scene should
to.
have never happened.
Yeah.
No,
It's totally manipulative.
I think the scene can happen.
No, but that scene and the way that you took it in should not have played out that way to be manipulated.
Like showing Ryan Reynolds hiding under the bed.
Yeah.
It was done for the audience.
Yes.
It wasn't done it makes no sense to the internal logic of the film.
The way that scene works could work.
If they wrote it
differently. But if they wrote it the same but a little bit different. So they say, hey, your dad's out of surgery, you can go talk to him. He's laying there. One of the things that I kind of struggle with my kids is I don't want them ever to see me prone. Right? So when I was in a car accident a year ago, I was banged up really bad. One of the things that I never wanted those girls to see was me incapacitated, like unable to move, which I was. I was. So I could see this scene playing out where she walks in, he's incapacitated for the most part, right? He's had this massive surgery, he's sleeping. She sees her dad as a human, as a vulnerable person. She breaks down because that is, in my opinion, from a dad looking at a daughter, I think that is kind of a scary thing to see.
Sure.
When this guy who is in those kids' eyes, indestructible and will always get back up, cannot get up. Then she tells the story. That works.
But he's okay.
But she doesn't know that.
I know, but you would tell her or warn her or
no hospital would let her think that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is they tell her what you're saying. Hey, the surgery went okay. He's resting. Let him rest.
But then you can't have a big moment.
Yes, sure you can. You can absolutely have her go in the room, see this man who has been like a superhero to her. Right? Compromised. She is going to feel something in seeing him in that state. Then she tells the story while she's seeing him in that prone state. And then he says, sounds like a great story.
Yeah.
Wakes up.
It's
then
just
you've got
different,
that.
but it's just a different, and it's a different scene, right? Like, I get you could do it, but then it doesn't have they tricked us. They manipulated the audience into thinking he might be dead.
Sure.
Or she thinks he's dead. And then she tells the story and the heartwarming moment that she told this story and he heard it. And that's a great story. And it's like, but then if she knew, she could be sad and see him and all that. But then it's like, it's not as meaningful because it's like, she knows he's okay, but she's just sad seeing him that way. Like, it's just two different scenes.
There are two different scenes, but I think you could play it the way I wrote it.
Sure. And I would have rather they did it like that and done it well. But so that's the thing where it's just such a bummer. They give you no insight and they get this call and then no one tells her otherwise.
Right.
And she runs in there without anyone being
the
like,
call is like, we don't
That's
even
ridiculous.
see we don't even see a call where like the grandmother is like just throwing in the bag.
Yeah.
your dad,
We gotta go.
I'm sure he's, that is ridiculous. First of all, they would be there.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but second of all, she would be like, your dad's out of surgery. He's recovering. It went well, but we got to, go see him, whatever. Like, I don't know. That whole thing made me just so frustrated with the movie that they would do that.
I don't disagree with you.
It's so cheap to make a
that's
scene
fair.
like that.
So
And
this
then
is,
what happens after that?
She realizes that Calvin. Well, she goes back.
Oh.
No, they're packing up. That's what it is. They're packing up, and this little art box that she refused to open before falls open.
I
and
wouldn't
she
be having the
sees-
heart surgery guy lug all the luggage around.
He does make that joke though. He makes that joke at the end of the movie where he goes, "Is that bag heavy?" And she goes, "No, I got it." He goes, "Great, I'll carry the rest of it."
Yeah.
It's like he's lugging it into the house. I was like, oh, "That's pretty funny." She finds a picture and she unfolds this of it's M. Night Shyamalan
After he's gone, though, right? Like the
He's
thing
gone.
is that
Yeah.
everyone's gone, and this old lady that's supposed to be like, I don't know, like
A witch. They
like
call her the witch
like
at the end of the
Home Alone
hall.
villains. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
sure,
They're
sure.
not they're really good in both movies, the same thing. But it's like this is the scary person, whatever.
he never admits that he didn't kill his family in Home Alone 1. He just says that his son left.
Which technically, if he had killed him, he would still have left.
He
still
left
would
his
have
mortal
left.
plane.
That's right. Well, we do see them at the end of the movie, but we just don't see the mom or anybody else. I think he did murder his mom, put him in that salt.
So she brings him cookies or something to say thank you, and the old lady's like, "Who's what?" She goes and opens the door like,
There's
"Oh,
nobody
okay,"
there.
and it's like a storage room.
Right.
The whole thing where she's been visiting Calvin, the Ryan Reynolds character, is the storage room and all the, just different knickknacks, whatever. Maybe stuff from her
And
past.
paddywhacks.
And were there paddywhacks in there? I didn't see. Different aspect ratio. I think they cropped my theater to
Can
where
you say that now? Can you say paddywhack?
Oh, I said, can you say aspect ratio? Wait, were you asking me because I'm Irish?
Yeah.
I speak for all the Irish?
That's what we're doing,
I
right?
don't know. I don't like the Irish.
So she goes in there and
You ever
then
had our food? It's awful. Our poetry? Dog.
I like a little.
how about Sinead O'Connor?
Well, I'm
Well,
R.I.P.
she's
but
a lot. Yeah,
yeah,
I can't
I mean-
talk.
Her
She
only
was,
good song was written by somebody else.
she was ahead of the game,
Oh.
tearing up that picture of the Pope.
That is true.
She was ahead of the game.
That is true.
Yeah.
She was fighting the real enemy
She
when,
was.
when she was still getting
And-
canceled for
yeah,
doing it.
For doing it.
That is true.
So we find out, and the lady is like, there is no one here. No one's been up here for ages, whatever. And so she realizes, and she finds that picture.
Yeah.
And man, that's another tricky cheat little thing. Like, really, the photo of her family she drew would be folded over
Yeah,
to
yeah,
where the
I totally
imaginary
agree with
friend-
you. I
Like,
totally-
no,
yes.
you would have the whole photo and be like,
Yeah.
oh, remember when you used to draw this imaginary? That's ridiculous. But
I agree,
okay.
100%. I agree that it's just like
Another
the
manipulation
one
of-
that is like an M. Night Shyamalan twist, though, right? Where he's just like, unfold this piece, and it tells you
Well,
everything. The twist.
It's like an M. Night Shyamalan twist in that
In the
I
back.
saw it coming 50 minutes before it was revealed,
yeah, I'm with you.
with the exception of The Sixth Sense. That one got me. I mean, I figured
Yeah.
it out like the scene before. But,
Sure.
But, like, yeah.
I listened to a podcast called The Bummer House, and they just review Blumhouse movies,
Yeah.
and they just did Glass and Split.
Yeah.
The Bummer House?
It's called The Bummer House
is
podcast.
it about his bad movies?
It's about all of them.
Oh, it's
they
all
just,
of them. Oh.
Even the bad ones.
So even the good ones, though, is still
Yeah,
called
yeah.
the Bummer House.
Yeah.
Well, it just makes it sound like it's a
No,
like,
no.
like a detractor.
No, they're not.
Blumhouse.
They're-
Okay.
It's a very funny podcast. But they just did Glass and Split, and they're like, "We loved Split; it was so good." And then they did Glass.
Yeah.
That jerk.
Well,
he
like the
ruined it.
idea
I didn't
of
like
it.
Split either.
Oh, I like Split a lot.
The idea of it being a shared universe is so exciting.
Oh
But
man,
if you
when that
don't
music when that music cue kicks
Yeah.
up, ooh, doggy.
but if you don't execute it properly,
And he
right?
didn't.
Like the thought of it was so
it
cool.
was so bad.
And anyway,
Yeah, so she runs back upstairs, and they're gone. And then she basically says, like, all you have to do is believe. Or
well, it's
something.
the thing from the teddy bear. The teddy bear told her,
that's right, that's
close
right.
your eyes, and like she
count
imagined
to 3 or whatever, and then there they're all the imaginary friends are there,
And
then,
Ryan Reynolds is dressed up in the clown outfit, no makeup, but the whole outfit.
which I was like, put the makeup on.
I know, right?
Like,
Well, because they know if you put the makeup on, one, he doesn't look like Ryan Reynolds. Two, he's creepy AF.
That was my thing. Was I was like, what little kid
Likes
imaginary friend is a
clowns.
clown?
Nobody likes clowns.
Nobody likes
And so
clowns.
it's exactly why they didn't put him in makeup. And I thought, well, that's really weird
well,
too.
they do kind of put him in makeup, right? When he climbs out of the painting, he's in makeup. He has makeup.
Oh,
It's just
I don't know if you can. He
absolutely.
had paint on him.
What do you think goes on a clown's face?
You know what?
That's a bit of a
You know what
stretch.
little
That's a
kid?
bit-
You know what little kid likes clowns.
John Wayne Gacy.
The same little kid who can imagine a Bugsby Berkeley pool dance sequence. What kid knows what the? I'm 53 and I barely know what that is.
They definitely do make her. They make her dress kind of like a hipster.
She's an old soul.
She's got like the suspenders. So
this movie loves them some
they
suspenders.
do. So I figured
You get
out
lots of
I figured out
suspenders.
who he was when they dressed the same.
Who's that?
Ryan Reynolds and Elizabeth, or Calvin and Elizabeth. There are scenes where they both have suspenders on. They're dressed similar. When they're doing the interview, they both push their hair behind their ear at the same time.
Yeah.
They both do it together. And I was like, oh, well, that's who he is. Like, he's going to be her.
Don't you think it would have been cool if that was her mom's imaginary friend and somehow that connected them all or
No,
something?
I mean, I do like the idea that he was hers.
Yeah.
When she needed him the most and she lost. I don't mind that.
But listen, like, she can see them all, and why? Like, Ryan Reynolds has been tasked with finding all these imaginary friends' homes, and somehow she has the same abilities, and they share this connection because he's her mom's imaginary. I just think there would have been some cool explanation. I was looking for them to actually write in some.
I don't mind, and I don't mind having that connection to the mom, like bringing that connection back. Man, what do we watch? We just recently watched. Oh, it was Imaginary, where the.
I want to say I want to see this movie, and everyone says it's terrible. So
it's awful.
So
it's
I don't
not
want,
good.
It's not good. Were you really not here for that?
No, I wasn't here for that. Matt
just
Bosler was on it. I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think this is one of those times where I was like, go back and listen to that episode. I think you were there.
I know I was not on it. I edited it. I was not on
But
it.
the scene when the crazy mom shows back up, out of nowhere, and then just disappears for the rest of the movie. You're like, well, okay, I guess that's fine.
But so the movie ends with, like, you know, her and her dad
driving, and
then the montage of them, like,
the grandma sees her friend
reuniting everyone.
Oh,
with
yeah,
their
yeah.
imaginary
Oh, yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
Like,
And then-
this is the best 3 minutes of the movie, in my opinion. I liked when they're reuniting them, when they're finally doing what they said they were going to do.
Yeah.
I think this works really well.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just nothing up to that point worked really well.
This is what's that movie? The Brothers Grimm. What's the one with?
The
two young grifters.
Yeah,
with their little boys.
the Ryan
Johnson movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
What is that? Is it the
Brothers Bloom.
Brothers Bloom.
And like that opening sequence is great. And I like Ryan Johnson and his
I do
movies.
too.
I did not care for Brothers Bloom, but that opening sequence about the little kid grifters should have been the whole movie, because that opening sequence, you can watch it, just treat it like a short film and bail when they start the opening credits, because that opening sequence to Brothers Bloom is great.
The bee's knees.
Yes.
So then we get the gag where Krasinski walks in the house and trips
Over the invisible
and he
friend.
goes, "Hi, Keith."
That's
Yeah.
one of the best
That's
gags
good.
in the whole movie.
That was a great
That's a great
payoff.
callback.
That was a great payoff
it's a great
to the
payoff,
Keith
really.
setup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. But yeah, I don't think you guys are wrong. Tom, I didn't even put it together.
I think what I really liked about the payoff to that too is the whole time he's like, "Who would do this?"
Right, and it's the
and then
dad,
it's the
yes.
dad
Yeah.
that did it. Like, yeah,
It's very funny.
I think coming into this as a father to daughters,
it hits you at a different.
it hits me in a
way.
different spot, and I think you're absolutely. And I didn't put that together until you said that.
Which there's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Oh
if it
no,
works for it,
I
works
just,
for it.
but I
There are
think
movies for different audiences.
That is
I mean,
what I
it's
love
just-
about movies.
I think the takeaway here, Joe, is that you're
Son of a bitch.
You're weak. You're weak,
And you need imaginary friends to make you feel
I
better.
do need some ifs to make me feel better about myself.
Movie should have been called Imaginary Friends. What a terrible title for a
No,
movie.
I think they had to. It probably would have been, but Imaginary came out 2 months ago.
Who cares? If is a terrible title for a movie.
If is not a good title, but I can understand.
2 tickets for If or 2 tickets for Imaginary Friends. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that marketing wise, I think they screwed
Imaginary
up.
Friends is too close to Imaginary, and they didn't. And I'm just saying, and I think it's the right move? Probably not. Do I think that?
I don't think that's the reason though, because I mean they say in the film that they refer to them as ifs.
that's true.
like it's not just.
I gotta tell you, I'm surprised that the whack job right didn't jump all over that. Is them identifying themselves as something that's not. You know what I mean?
Lord.
Like, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Like, they do it. He says, he's like, we prefer to be called ifs. And it's like, yep, I'm waiting for that. And, faux rage or whatever the.
But I think they did themselves a disservice by making a weird title like that,
Yeah.
It's too obscure.
Well, it's underperforming.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise
It was
me.
estimated for 40, and now it's looking at closer to 30.
I do. And I listened to the Fall Guy podcast, which I am super bummed that I didn't get to do.
Check that movie out. It's pretty
It's
cool.
a fun movie.
I know, that's what I'm saying though. Is like it kind of sucks that something that is also, I knew that Fall Guy was a TV show, and I think it's
Blake had my back on that one. He knows more pop culture than me. And
Is it Robert?
And he's like, I had no idea that was a
Lee
TV show.
Majors.
what was the one with Robert Urich?
Vegas.
Okay.
He played Dantana.
Oh yeah, what a great name.
Vegas with a dollar sign.
Yeah, well,
And he was also in Spencer for Hire, right?
That's it. Spencer
Yeah.
was what I'm thinking of. Okay.
I just don't think this movie, I think in a year, if someone says if, you'll be like, what was that? Did I
Yeah.
see that?
I think that happens more often than we admit.
Oh, yeah.
I think when you go back and look at like whatever.
I've gone back, like scrolling through whatever and seen old episodes,
Like,
and I was
we did
like,
that?
I saw that?
Yep.
But I think this is one of those.
Kevin's so bad at it, he forgets he's even on the episode.
Yeah.
That happened one time, and more often than not, I'm right about it. But you're right. That one, I
What
totally
was that?
don't know.
What have we
Was
talking
it the American Ultra?
Yeah, yeah.
what it was,
That's
I
right.
think it's
That's
because I didn't see the movie or something, so I had to
Just
just
do
like
like a
make
blind-
up like I did or something.
Blind man synopsis.
Blind man synopsis.
That might have been one where I really didn't see it. Like that rarely happens, but I think I didn't watch it, and I was still here, and so.
You son of a bitch! You lied to us.
No, I probably said it. I probably was like, I didn't see this movie. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess that's it for this one.
That
Let's
is.
go around the table, and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at JoeyButts, BUTTS21, and on Letterboxd at the same.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at KevinRBrackett.
And this is Tom. Follow me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at Facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online at Facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group, come in and say hi. And you can also find us on Patreon at Patreon.com/Real Spoilers. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, Klinzendorf is executed by a firing squad.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice.